Okay, welcome everybody. Sorry for the slow start. Yes, today we're going to cover federal government contracting, and this will be slanted toward veteran businesses, of course. And let me go to the next slide here. Okay, so my background, I am the president of Bidspeed. As Dan mentioned, I'm also the vice president of the USVBA board. I'm a Navy background and a graduate of '85, and then my contact information is there for if anybody wants to get to it. We also have Mike Olivier that's going to be talking today. He's going to be talking about Cmmc very briefly. He's president of 171 Comply. He's got a veteran-owned business. He's Marine Artillery, and he's a certified PMP. I don't know what that is, but and then there's his contact information. So now. Okay, so the agenda today, we're going to talk about getting started in federal government contracting. I'm going to go over this briefly. It's mostly resource links. This is how to become registered and so forth. We're going to talk about the new requirements of Cmmc. This is a new requirement. It's being imposed this year, so most contracting companies are probably not familiar with it. We're going to talk about finding the opportunities. This is finding the money, some best practices on the sources sought, which is what Dan had mentioned. And then briefly, I might talk about DIBs and follow the money as FPDS. If I have time, we'll talk about those. Okay, so getting started. Okay, we're going to start with the basics. Getting started is getting registered with SAM. You're going to need, let's see there, I have a, basically you come in and let me see if I get this on the right one. So I'm going to switch this over to here. So SAM is the registration. It's where all government contractors get registered. You're going to need your DUNS number. I have a link to the DUNS number, how to, find your DUNS numbers. Let me get rid of this. So I have a link here for how to find your DUNS numbers. Also, you're going to need your NAICS code. When I say find your DUNS number, this is how you can register for a DUNS number, and it's free for federal government contractors. So make sure you go to this website and you'll be able to, oops. I don't know what that is. Oh, poll coming up, sorry.
Sorry about that. That's one of those intrusions I talked about.
Okay, so let me get back to, okay, so you're gonna need your DUNS number. So you go there, it's a free site, get your DUNS number. You also need to know your NAICS codes to get registered. And then when you're in there, you're gonna be self-certifying if you're a service-able veteran-owned small business. It's very liberal on disability. It's greater than 0%. So this poll keeps jumping. 0% disability, and we can go into that a little deeper. And then they're going to issue a CAGE code. CAGE code is a number that your ID number for government contracting. You should put it on the back of your business cards, put it on your capability statement, which is what we're talking about. Capability statement, sorry, just went too fast. Capability statement is basically the resume for your company. And government has a pretty set way that you want to look at this. So I've also put a website here. It gives you it lays out exactly how they want to see it. There's all this information that they want. You can see what they need, but this is what it should look like. Your logo, business summary, capabilities, and so forth. So this is all here. You definitely need to have one because all sources sought 90% of sources sought are going to request your capability statement at some point. So you definitely want to have that. Okay, moving on. Social economic categories and goals. Okay, so this is what the federal government tracks, social economics. The veterans are part of this group. You can see that we have 8As, hub zones, economic disadvantaged women-owned small businesses. Those three are certified by the SBA. They're a formal certification. The economic disadvantaged women-owned small business, mouthful, just started in October. So that's a fairly new certification process for the SBA. You can see I've got the goals here and then the actual for 2019. So the 8A was supposed to be 5%. It was actually 9.65%. And so for the veterans, we have the service-able veteran-owned small business category, right? And once again, this is self-certified within SAM, and the definition of disability is greater than 0%. Okay, so most veterans will qualify as a service-able veteran. Now, if you don't, and you just have a veteran-owned small business, the VA is the only agency that actually tracks and promotes spend to the veteran-owned small businesses. So you still can sell to the VA, but they have a Vet First program, and we'll talk about that in just a second. You can see the small business goals 23, and that's the overall goal. All these count as small businesses, which brings up, when you are registering in SAM, make sure to put down everything you qualify. I see a lot of people say that they're, you know, a service-stable veteran-owned small business, but they don't claim total small business. You claim everything you can, and when you're doing your SAM registration, okay? So now, also, sort of a tangent to that is the veteran business certifications, and there seems to be some misconception of what certifications go with what. But on the federal level, SAM is the certification body, you know, and it's not a certification, it's a self-certification. You put whatever you want in there. If they do catch you and it's fraud, you don't want that. So make sure to legitimately claim it. And most of the key in here is that you're 51% in control of that business, day-to-day operations. You're not a pass-through. You gotta be careful about being a pass-through, but self-certifying SAM for veteran businesses, for the service-able veteran-owned small business certification. The VA, as I mentioned, has the Vets First program. That's both for service-able veteran-owned small business and veteran-owned small businesses. And then this link will take you to the verification process, and you can get started with the VA. And it's only for the VA. You don't need the certification for any other part of the federal government. But the federal government does look, say, favorably upon the certification if you have it, because they know that the due diligence is already done. Okay, now I'm not going to go into states because each state has different ones. I just want to mention that there is a state certification level, and this is basically why the US VBA was created in the beginning, was to support the California DVBE program, and there's a link to the California, and other states have different programs, and we definitely don't have time to review it today. Now, there's also commercial certifications out there, and you know, for the commercial companies, and Novoba is one of them, and there's their website, and they do certification. There is a process to go through. They have site visits and so forth. And actually, Mimi Loam is the vice president of Novoba, and she has just joined our board. And just like a shout out to Mimi. So those are the certification levels, okay, or certification types. Okay, let me move on here. Okay, now I also want to mention the free resources out there for government contracting. There's the SBA. Hopefully everyone's heard of the SBA, Small Business Administration. All of these links is to how to find your local representative. So for the SBA, that is the link to find your local SBA office, and they can help on the certification process, you know, for the 8As and the hub zones and the economic disadvantaged women. They also help generally in business development, but the three below are also the SBA resources. So they might send you off to one of these depending on who you are. SBDC is more of a general development, business development center. The PTAC is more federally focused. You know, they're going to, you know, more about the capability statements, more about getting SAM registration, more of the federal focus, versus the SBDC is more of a small business where they do like QuickBooks and other things like that. The VBOC, and I'd like to have a shout out to Region 9, which is Corinne Conley. She's also on our board. The VBOC is a special opportunity center, as it is. It's for veterans, and I highly recommend all the veteran businesses, you know, contact your local VBOC. That's what the link goes to, but if you had a choice, Region 9 is a very good one to choose. Okay, so that doesn't work, sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Mike real quickly here. There's a new requirement, Cmmc, which has just come out. This is another thing that's going to be required by the federal government to do contracts. Right now, it's just in a few of the opportunities. We're going to be talking about these opportunities, but a few of them now have a requirement that you are CMMC certified, and Mike's going to take it from here. And Mike, just let me know on the slides.
Okay, let's go to the first slide here. So, gotta move this thing out of the way. So the cybersecurity maturity model, that should be Cmmc. Looks like that last C dropped off, fell on the floor. That's IQ test. I'll take that hit there. So basically, as Mike was saying, if you're a contractor within what they call the defense industrial base, you'll need to be certified to 1 to 5 levels. 60% what they call the defense industrial base will be level 1. 17 requirements. That's pretty simple. And this is simple stuff that you should be doing already, like having antivirus software, controlling your physical space where you work, having a password. Yeah, everyone has a password. But simple things like that. I'm not trying to make it trivial, but it is relatively easy. The next step up is this level 3, which is 130 requirements and requires a system security plan. And that's if you have federal contract or technical information. So the first level there, as you can see from the slide, is federal contract information. So if you are a subcontractor, and most companies start off as subcontractors, you may not have to have one of these, although your prime contractor will probably want you to have one of these certifications. Level 3, of course, is a whole different ballgame, 130 requirements and a system security plan. So when you look at getting in the defense business, you need to keep this in mind, because this is not going to be easy even at level 1. You have to have the ability to demonstrate that you're actually doing what it is you said you will do within this in this environment. So you'll have to prove to an auditor, you're going to have to pay for an auditor to come and audit your company or assess your company and certify your company as compliant to one of these 2 levels. And so again, this is something you really need to think about. Now, of course, the other thing that I want to mention here is, as this rolls out throughout the Defense Department, they also anticipate this to roll to other government agencies, such as the U.S. Department of Transportation, NASA, and so on and so forth. So if you're going to get involved in government contracting at any level, you probably want to look into this and see what it takes to sort of kick the can down the road, as they say. Why don't you go to the next slide there, Mike? And so, again, as I'm saying, compliance is not easy or cheap. And so what we found, what we do is we help people become compliant. Is systems all suffer from benign neglect. So what can you do now? Well, you can make sure that all your operating system software is up to date, that you have up-to-date hardware. You know, everyone should be running the latest version of Windows 10 Pro if you have it, and do those things that you normally would do in order to secure your system. You know, secure your computer system like you secure your home. This NACE code range here did not come out, but this gives you an estimate of costs that the government anticipates it will take in order for people to become compliant. And it's going to run from, they have 1 to 2% of your gross income. And they have the insane version where they have 60% of gross income to be compliant and to sustain this. And of course, no sane business is going to spend 60% of their income to be compliant. But no matter what business you get into, you need to think about compliance in the sense that if you're in the healthcare industry, you have to be compliant with HIPAA. If you deal with credit cards, you may have a PCI compliance. You know, if you're in construction, then you have safety compliance. And so this is one of those things that you need to think about as you embark on your business, or as you try to grow your business strategically, of how you're going to meet these compliance requirements. And so the best course of action is to start working on this now. There's tons of resources available. You have my contact information there. We can, you know, talk about what is available to you free today, for you can start working on this. Again, this is not going to be an easy task. Even at level 1, there's certain things that you have to do, and most importantly, you have to demonstrate compliance. And so what does that mean? We can talk about that. We're working with the USVBA to provide some free resources to people that join the USVBA. We're in the process of putting these together. One of those things will be our level 1 playbook. And that's about a 20-30 page document that you can take a look at. And I'll kind of outline those things that you need to do to be compliant, meet those level 1 requirements. And so with that, that's my brief overview, extremely brief. Again, like Mike was saying, getting into government contracts is not easy. You know, it's like playing baseball. If you get on base 20% of the time, 30% of the time, you're a god and you'll have a statue in your honor. And winning contracts is like that, right? You're not going to win them all. So you need to take the strategic view. All right. And I'll hand it back over to you, Mike.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. And as you mentioned, it was the DoD, and the DoD is the biggest spender. So if you're moving into government, federal government, you should definitely take a look at the Cmmc because it is the biggest pocketbook in the federal government at this point. So as you can see, our next one was we're moving right into is opportunities. So you've now gone through all the certification, registration, you've found your NAICS codes, you've done all the homework, you're ready to go out and start hunting. So now the major databases for the federal government, I'm only talking about the federal government because if we start to talk about state and local, that opens it up to about 65,000 different databases. So at this point, FBO, which this is old school for you guys who've been around for a few years, was FBO. Now it's beta.sam.gov. And then supposedly on May 24th, that will be changing and getting rid of the beta part, and it will become sam.gov. If it's like last time, it completely fell down during the switch over. So hopefully we learned a lesson. Hopefully there won't be any hiccups. But as I said, May 24th, we'll be switching the original FBO to beta.sam to now finally sam.gov. So SAM is this plan for years now that there will be a single sign-on for every part, for your registration, for a federal procurement data system, for all the things we're talking about, that this would be a single sign-on. It's taken years just to get 2 or 3 parts put together, but okay. So let's talk about beta.sam, as it's called today. This is your federal opportunities, greater than $25,000. This is the clearinghouse of business opportunities from the federal government. The only things that are not included on here are anything that's classified, and then anything that's probably originated here, but is now on its own, like an IDIQ or a blanket purchase agreement, MATOX. They usually start here to get onto it, like a Seaport E, which is an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. They start on FBO, you win yourself onto that IDIQ, and then they have their own task orders come from a different system. Okay, so now Deb System is the DLA's internet bid board system. This is for products. This is not services. This is products. This is mostly for manufacturers, manufacturer reps, people who sell product. This is the DoD's system of buying commodity type items. Commodity is everything from like some wing nuts to screws to, but they consider beer, lumber, ruggedized lap types for commodity items today. So if you sell product, that's a different, and it's searched differently, that's why it's separate. Okay, the SBIR, STTR, we'll talk about briefly on the next slide, but this is your research and development grants, and we'll talk about this in a minute. Grants.gov, self-explanatory. This is where you can find your grants, searchable database to find up grants. Now, FPDS, and I'm sorry, I left off a G. I guess that's a habit now. FPDS NG, next generation, is your federal procurement data system. This is the award history, and we're going to cover that here in the slide later. So, okay, so those are the general databases. So I did say I want to talk about SBIR just briefly. There's one slide on it. SBIR is the small business innovation research, and the STTR is small business technology transfer. It's a 3-phase program. Phase 1 is a white paper. They fund you $150,000. Phase 2 is research and development over a 2-year period with up to $1 million spend. And then phase 3 is commercialization of your product, and hopefully you're selling back to the federal government. The difference between the two, STTR is a partnership with a nonprofit or research institution like a university or one of the labs. I think there's, gotta forget, 18 labs throughout the US government. It's like Livermore Labs, something like that. And what it is it's to take their intellectual property and transfer it to commercial companies to get to production. So if you want to know about the program, here's at the bottom, there's another link there to talk about the program. And there's a link for the laboratories if you need that. Okay, so let's move out of that. Let's get back onto, so this is sort of the government contracting best development practices. And I should have said for small businesses. Okay, so, and that's what Dan had mentioned. It's basically sources sought. And what it is the federal government needs small businesses. They're required to set aside solicitations under $150,000, and they have to seek capable sources for all solicitations over 150,000. So this is where you see sources sought. And sources sought is early market research for the federal government, and this shows up in beta.sam.gov, and we'll get to that second. So now the reason why you want to respond to these sources sought is because of the chances of winning are dramatically increased by we lock out the primes. So if you have large businesses that compete against you in your sector of the market, this is the way you lock them out. And in the old days, you know, if it got set aside and the small business went after it and the primes didn't really care. But today, with the market tight, I see the primes now chasing down small businesses because they can support you on these. Even you prime it, you have to do 51% of the work. So you could go to, I don't know, General Dynamics is on here, or Lockheed. You can go to those guys and ask them to support you 49%. So it's great to have these set-asides done, and then you can prime it and then bring in the primes if you want for 49% of the work. You know, this is business development and marketing. You know, this is the way you do it to the federal government. If you can't go up and walk the halls, some people do, but, you know, and so you're starting, in the sources sought, you're starting a communication process with the contracting officer early and often. You want to get these guys to feel good about your company, because you'll see why in here in a second. So, okay, but what is the catch about these sources sought? Okay, first of all, they're not RFPs, RFQs. There's no award dollars. This is a early market research. You're trying to influence how the government's going to buy, and you want them to buy from small businesses, not from the primes. Okay, so you do have to read the questions, got to answer the questions. You know, big thing, people don't answer all the questions because they don't like one. You know, you got to watch your page limit. These are not, and the page limit is usually when they're asking for a white paper, because the government during the sources sought sometimes hasn't figured out the solution, and they're asking the small business community to help them on the solution for when they do come out with the RFP or RFQ, and respond by the deadline. Government is terrible about late. If you miss it by, and literally I had a company 7 seconds late and it was rejected because it's computer based. So let's make sure to make the deadline. Okay. Once again, there's no pricing involved here, so they're usually pretty quick to respond to. It's usually your capability statement and maybe some questions. And like I said, an involved one would include a white paper. Okay. So I was going to do a real quick, let me get rid of this thing here. It's in my way. Okay, so I'm going to go into Bidspeed here real quick. And what it is I just want to show a source of sought, how to find it, and basically, what is a response going to look like? So basically, and it doesn't matter what database that you're searching, but most of them have some type of way to find sources sought. Oops. And then I want a response date greater than today. Oops, sorry. Greater than today. I mean, I only want active current ones. I don't want to look at the past ones. You might want to look at past ones for teaming opportunities or something. Let's see, there's 991 opportunities on the street today. Pretty average. I see as low as 800. I see as high as 1,200. That's toward the end of the third quarter of the government year. You'll see us popping up to about 1,200 as they're trying to get rid of money at the end of the year. So there's 991, but this covers all products and agency. Don't get locked on NAICS codes, because sometimes the NAICS code hasn't been decided on. Like an example would be software development. There's off the shelf and there's custom, 2 different NAICS codes. Sometimes they don't know which one it is. So I tend to use under the sources sought class codes. Class codes represent multiple NAICS codes. There's only one for IT, so it covers all IT, and you won't get that many. So let's say I'll do for IT real quick. Numbers are products, and letters are services. So I'm information technology. I want to apply that. So there is 25 sources sought on the street. So now the idea is that you would, you can go through these, you can take a look at the subject, you'll go into it and respond to it. And like I said, predominantly 90% of them are going to ask for your capability statement, and possibly, and then a few of them are going to ask for three things that you've done that are similar to the project, sort of your past performance. And then some of them might, like I said, the more complicated ones are the white papers where they're like the government's fishing for solutions. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so good things to know. Sources sought doesn't guarantee an RFP. The government could kill it in the process because either the funding doesn't ever arrive, which I've seen before, or because there was no good solutions. They're asking for the white papers, they can't come up with solutions, so they could kill the thing. Also, don't get locked on RFP numbers because sources sought changed based on the agency. Some of them reuse the RFP number, some of them don't. And if the RFP isn't set aside, and we'll talk about what's required for that, ask them why and follow up with it. So remember, this is marketing. It's an opportunity to talk to these contracting officers during the process. So okay, just real quickly, respond early, respond often. I sort of covered this. Remember, it's business development for you and the federal government. Back to this capability statement, make it short. Don't send them a long one. They're just trying to make sure you're capable of doing it. Most of it's bullet points, classifications and so forth. And back to be registered as, properly registered. They are going to check SAM for your registrations. They all do. And make sure you're properly registered in there. And then look like a real company, meaning that, don't have a Gmail address. I hate to throw that out there, but, real business, have a URL, go to GoDaddy, pick up a URL, for a couple dollars you can have. They're going to check your website, and I'm telling you, they do flag. It's not a huge flag, but AOL, Gmail accounts, are not doesn't give them a warm feeling about your company. Just going to briefly talk about DIBS. Okay, so DIBS I talked was, I just want to make sure we're on not too much time. It's the Defense Logistics Agency. Like I said earlier, they are the largest spender within the DoD. And so they manage 4.8 million items. You can see it, 8 supply chains. There's 8,000 contract actions per day. And so they spent $361 million in 2019, and there's 2,500 posted, per day. So and they're quick turnarounds. Typically, they don't last more than 2 weeks for their request. It's not like FBO, which sometimes, you've got a month, 2 months to respond, but not on DLA's DIBS. So, what they buy. Real quickly, this is what they buy. You can see all the different categories. This is I told you, the 9 different categories or whatever. So, this is mostly commodity, bulk items. So, oops, wrong direction, sorry. Okay, follow the money. Okay, everybody wants to follow the money. What does that mean? FPDS, NG. Like I said, this is the database of the award history. As you can see, all actions over $3,000. This is where all the IDIQs get posted on how much they spend, blanket purchase agreements, GSA supply schedules. So these are the different vehicles that the government buys through. These are all reported to FPDS. And why is that of interest? Because you can do data mining within the FPDS. There's millions of records in there, so it is pretty cumbersome. You can look at agency spend. You can see what type of set-asides they do. Do they do 8A? Sole sourcing, that's the big one for 8As. Does that agency know how to do sole source? Have they done it in the past? Are you looking for expiring contracts? This is sort of early forecasting. You can go through expiring contracts, find out if they're going to be recompeted. And, that's, like I said, that's your early forecasting. You can, review competitor contracts. You can find your competitor in there. Remember, these cage codes are public. You get your competitor's cage code, you can put them in there. You can see every contract that he's ever won. You can sort of review them, see what agency works with your competitor, so good market intelligence from that side. Okay. Well, I was going to take questions here, but I think Monty wants to take them at the end. Really the last thing I have here is sort of our Bidspeed offering for the USVBA. So for all this information, don't need Bidspeed at all. You can definitely use all this information. I've given you links directly to, the SBA's information, all the, where to sign up, how to find things. So it's all in here, and Monty's going to be sending this all out to everybody. So you'll be able to have all that resources. But if you do want to use Bidspeed, and just like we do have a sign up, you can get a 2-week free trial. There's no credit cards needed. Just try it out for 2 weeks. If you don't want to buy a subscription, and it will convert to a free federal government search for life. You can do like that sources sought search I just did. You can do, combined solicitations, which are your RFPs, RFQs. You can search for those. You can put search agents in there, and it will notify you when it finds something. So it's a bid alert matching system, free. And you can also manage 5 opportunities. I didn't have time to show you how we manage opportunities, but you can take 5 opportunities and you can manage them through the bid proposal process. And then if you do want to sign up for one of our packages, we do have a discount code here. You can go to our website and see what all the packages are, but we do offer the bronze package at a discount of 21% for 2021. So 21% discount, and if you need to use the website that I have here, link, because it puts the discount code in automatically, and we'll keep it tracked for you. So, okay, I think I have, talked enough. I guess now I'll switch it back over to Monty for, questions, or you raise your hands, I guess, if you have any questions.
Yes, please raise your virtual hand in the Zoom meeting, and we'll call on you if you have any questions. And if for some reason we can't see that you have your hand up, maybe you're on your phone, go ahead and type it in the chat, or just unmute yourself and start talking.
And while we're doing that, I'm just going to share the results that of the questions, the polls they put out there.
Must have put everybody to sleep.
No.
Hello, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marie, and this is my first year actually looking to compete for government contracts. And I was wondering, how difficult is it for industries to take a chance on someone with 0 experience with government contracts?
They'll take a risk on them. What it is they're going to look at if you have federal contracting experience first. If you don't, then the next one is they're going to look at state and local and education contracts. If you don't have that, then it's commercial, and the commercial contracts are just just as good as on your resume. They understand small businesses coming into the federal space, but that's where you've got to show. And it doesn't have to be the company that you've just started. A lot of companies, I just started this year and we don't have any experience. It's the experience of your executive team. They bring those, but you can't put like, hey, I came from Lockheed, so I did everything Lockheed did. No, it's whatever you did within Lockheed, so you can bring that experience to the table, and that works. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike, we have a question, Mike, from Chris Sweeten. Will the CVE move over the federal side versus just in the VA?
Don't know. It's been debated for probably years now. Like I said, the VA is the only one does their own certification. There's been talks by the SBA. I talk to the SBA pretty regularly. They've always talked about sucking over the certification process, but nothing formal as of today.
Thanks, Mike. We also have a question from Dylan Clark. Dylan, please.
Hey, yeah, I was, someone actually had sent me this to get to watch this video. Very, very informative. So thank you guys much for your time. How do I get more information on Bidspeed? It looked, actually, I know you guys weren't trying to make it a sale thing, but I'd like to get a little more versed on that to see if it's something we would subscribe to and might help us along the way. So how do I get more information on that? or get in contact with a salesperson or whatnot?
Really easy. What I would suggest is just signing up, go to the website. Or actually that link that I'll post a link here in just 1 second, but just go to that link because it's tagged to USVBA, sign up. Like I said, no credit card needed. And then you'll get an email saying, hey, look, we want to onboard you, and we'll go through the whole system with you. And actually anything we change will be done in your system. So it's sort of like an onboarding customization call.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a question from Andre. I'm assuming this question is for Mike Olivier, because the question is, I was wondering if your company can do all of these certifications. I'm not sure if that's CMMC or the other ones for veterans. So perhaps we could answer both. You're muted, Mike.
I unmute. Okay. Helps if you unmute. So right now, this whole process is being rolled out. And there is a requirement that the people that help do the consulting and do the certification are two separate companies. So that's one thing. If someone helps you get certified, then they can't be the assessor. That kind of makes sense. Now, there's a whole process and procedures for setting up assessors, and they have to be trained and certified. And that whole process is going to take a year or so to roll out. I know you're thinking, what are you, crazy? But you have to have people trained. They have to go through certified training. They have to pass the tests, and they have to jump through another hoop, and so on and so forth. I don't want to get into a lot of detail here. But what we do is we help companies become certified. Eventually, when this thing rolls around, we will become assessors. But again, that is out some time. And so you can't be both a consultant helping somebody. You can't be an assessor for that same client. So that's one thing I want to make clear. And the second thing is, as this is a program in its infancy, I mean, it's been around for a few years, but the training has just really started, I think, the last month or so. And it's going to take years before there's sufficient people out to really deal with the defense industrial base. The defense industrial base consists of 300,000 companies. So that kind of gives you an idea of the scale here. So hopefully that answers your question. Feel free to reach out to me, and we can talk on the phone and hopefully answer all your questions you got. Over to you, Money.
Mike. We have another question for Mike Ray from Edward Jones. Is there an advocate for each government entity that can assist a veteran with applying for business?
That's the OSDBU officer. It's the Office of Small Business Utilization. I forget what the last part is, but yeah, they're your advocates within an agency. So you'll want to find the OSDBU officer, whatever agency you're working for. Now, really small agencies won't have them, but all the large agencies definitely have them, and they might have multiple OSDBU officers. So that's the key contact person, and he is there to advocate small businesses. His job is strictly to make sure that agency meets its small business requirements.
Thanks, Mike. We have another question from Gabe Camargo. I am brand new to this all. I don't even have a company set up yet. That being the case, what would be the best way to set up my business? As a DBA, an LLC, my business would be in the technology development sector, application design, and whatnot.
That's really outside our scope. That's really between you, your accountant, and your legal representation. I just created mine. I'm an LLC, but I'm not giving any legal advice here.
Okay. Edward Jones has a follow-on question. How does he find this information about the advocates? Is there a website, or is there a number he calls?
Just Google it, put agency, put whatever agency you're looking for, and then put OSDBU.
And what's OSDBU? Type that into the chat for everyone, please, Mike.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we have some time to take some more questions. If you don't have your hand up, please feel free to paste those into the chat. There we go, OSDBU. Thanks, Mike. So if you can't type and you can't raise your hand, just unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Monty, let me,
I
there's a
think
couple
someone's
things I
asking a
wanted to,
question.
I'm sorry, this is Dan, the president. My apologies. Hey, there's a couple things I neglected to go over when we started out. Heck, I forgot to make the pitch that you should join this organization. I really do think that we provide a really solid benefit for you, and on all sorts of levels. Advocating for small business and veteran and disabled veteran-owned businesses. At a minimum, but certainly in providing these kind of seminars, working with University of Southern California and others to provide you information that teaches you how to go about doing this, and then introducing you to the folks who can actually help you interact with both primes and government agencies. Second, what Mike Olivier does is absolutely wonderful, and this CMMC is a really stringent requirement that you got to get your hands around. But there's going to be folks out there that are going to teach you. They're going to say, "Hey, if you want to become an SDVOSB or any of these other certifications, I can help you do that." And my advice there is, that's just something that you want to take care of on your own. It's not the most onerous of requirements, unlike what Mike does, and that takes a real professional. So I beg of you, don't spend your money there. Just come on and we'll help you. We'll be glad to provide you information on how to do it, and keep us informed on how it goes. So yeah, that was my big pitch. Join the darned organization. And we've got a free membership if you just want to do that. You're going to get more when you pay more, but you're certainly going to get a lot of information and help with the free membership.
Okay, so Mike Ray from Bidspeed is answering some of these questions that are rolling in directly via chat communication direct to each of you, because we are coming to the end of our session now. So just a handful more questions. Mike, are there any of these that you'd like to answer live?
I'll just go real quickly. A question about the 8A hub zones I just put in is, yeah, if you want to free consulting, go to the SBA. That's what they do, is they do the certification, put you through the process, and make sure that you can qualify to do it. So that's the SBA. Just go to the link to your local SBA. For the CMMC, does it apply to all NAICS codes? It applies to anyone who sells to the DoD. So if you're going to sell to the DoD, yes, it applies. If it's you're outside the DoD, it doesn't matter at this point. But like Mike said, that it's going to go probably government-wide fairly soon. Mike, anything else on that?
Yeah, so we could spend a couple hours on CMMC, but basically what Mike's saying is correct. If you are a subcontractor or you have a direct contract with the Department of Defense, then you're going to be subject to being certified for one of these 5 levels. There will always be exceptions to the rules, but be prudent and think about what it is you want to do, and realize that this is not like I say, it's not a weekend science project.
We have a question from Richard's Counseling. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. What was that place that you gave us to get help on a capability statement?
I would talk to the PTAC, your local PTAC. That's in that free resources. Just hit the link on that, and you'll pick your state, and it'll tell you the closest PTAC to where you live.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mike, if you want to upload your presentation right here into the chat for those that need it immediately, sounds like some do, we could just go ahead and click that file icon there and just drop it in for everyone to see. That way you get it right away. We have one more question from John Reinhardt. I make honey infused products with CBD, and all of my products have no THC. What roadblocks can I expect to encounter when trying to vend to the VA and other federal agencies, including the military?
Good question. I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot of requests for CBDs at this point in the federal supply chain. So it's not quite there.
Hey, Mike, actually, we've got Michelle Williams, another board member of ours, and she has that exact answer right here.
Oh, perfect.
Without prior approval from the VA, you can't market to the VA for anything that resembles prescription or medicines. And I do know that CBD oil is not on the commercial side of the world considered a prescription, but that's how it's distributed. So without prior approval through the VA for how it's manufactured, you can't market to the VA. So it is a double-edged sword. But if you choose to go through the USVBA and I'm on the board, I can get you in the right direction.
Good stuff.
John, go ahead. We can't hear you. You must be muted somewhere else. No, we can't hear you, buddy. Go ahead and type it in. So while John is typing in the remainder of his question, are there any other questions anyone else has? I see 2 hands raised, but I can't see who they are.
One is Carrie Reddick. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, please.
I know this is redundant and I apologize. I just started probably this quest last year. So I'm HubZone certified, going after my 8A service disabled. I just want to know, because I've been sitting in my office, so I can come to you guys. You guys can help me truly get started, correct? And point me in right directions. I mean, I'm on beta and everything else, but as I was looking at Mike's screen, I'm looking at USVBA. I can become part of USVBA and Mike's program. And is this going to help me get my little small business rocking and rolling? I think Dibs is pretty much where I really need to be, but again, I didn't mean to take too much of your time. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I'm glad I got on. I don't even know where I found this link. So.
Thank you. We have another question from Angel Christopher. Please unmute and ask your question.
Monty, let me
answer. So sorry.
Let me provide Mr. Reddick some information.
I'm so
Absolutely.
sorry.
That's what USVBA does. We are here to provide assistance. We won't do the work for you, but then if you're trying to start a small business, I think you're going to want to do all the work, as much of the work as possible, but we'll certainly be able to provide you tremendous amounts of information and resources, get you pointed in the right direction to let you get started.
My business is up and running, capability statements, everything. I'm just ready to get with the company that can get me in the right direction, get me, help me get through some doors. Thank you.
We can do that.
That's join. Dang it, just join.
I'm joining as soon as I get off this call.
Okay, Angel, we're ready for you.
Hey, I'll make it quick. I see we're short on time. So my scenario maybe is a little bit more advanced and might need a deeper dive on it. But essentially, I was with a consulting firm before. I'm a service disabled veteran. I've just started my own shop. We did actually have some federal contracts there with like some DoD organizations. And, now with the new, work landscape, right, I've decided to kind of pursue this on my own. My question is to get started with SAM. When they're talking, is it only to self-certify? So I live in New York City, as you can all probably tell. And so we have a city certification, we have a state certification, then we have the federal level certification. And I'm wondering if I can self-certify on SAM and start bidding for contracts, or how quickly that should work, because here in New York City and state, it's a longer process to get certified.
It's fairly quick. All you have to do is go to SAM. It's self-certified, meaning when you go through it'll ask you questions and it'll go, are you a women-owned small business? And yours, yes. As long as you're 51%, you're not like 3 or 4 partners and you only have 25, so there's 51% of the women in your company is owned by that. It's self-certified. Service-able veteran-owned small business, are you 51, you'll self-certify that. And so that's all you have in the federal. Now that will get you everybody except the VA. Now the VA has its own certification, VA First program. It's one of the links. Yeah. But outside of the VA, as long as you can get through SAM registration, some people say it's very onerous to go through the whole thing. But you also have to get, I think now, a notary letter, and that's a little bit. So it's easy to do, but it takes a couple of weeks because of the notary now.
Okay, no worries. I actually did it with my old firm, but now as a smaller, shop. Yeah. Thank you.
You're ready to go.
Angel, you mentioned Angel Michelle Davis on the board.
Hey, Michelle, how you doing?
You mentioned working with the state of New York. You're gonna,
Yeah.
if you want to do business with them, SAM is not gonna be good enough for them. They have their
Yeah.
own requirements. So you're gonna have to do the city and you're gonna have to do the state. But
Yeah.
for the DOD, Mike is totally right. SAM.gov is enough of a self-certification where it'll be accepted.
And thank you, because that's really what I wanted to know. I figured I'd still have those like in the cooker, but if I can get this low hanging fruit quicker, that really helps me. So thank you.
That is the quickest low hanging fruit.
If I can ask you, if I can just answer a question regarding New York State, this is Jackie Burrell. I am CVE as well as New York State, as well as New York City. I can put you in touch with the guys up there. I don't know if you want to connect somehow offline, but I'm more than willing to introduce you and get you to the right people who works on that.
No worries. I'll type my email in the chat right now.
There you go.
See, even on Zoom, we can be a social network as well. Great.
There you
Thank you so
go.
much, Jacqueline.
Kim Elliott said she missed when a notary is needed, and that's what she does.
SAM registration. SAM, I believe, I haven't done a new registration in a while, but I believe SAM has implemented a notary. You have to have a letter notarized that you are a real person applying to SAM.
Thanks, Mike. Well, I don't see any hands up, and I don't see any other questions coming in. Perhaps we can wait just a minute if there's any last minute questions, because we are 1 minute over now. We want to respect your time. Okay, we're just getting thank yous in here. So Dan, it's back to you, brother.
Well, I'm just going to give a final thank you for everyone to show up. Carrie, I want you to join. I think we're worth it. I think this events like these prove, but I'm not trying to take money without providing anything. If you just want to see what we're all about and join with the free membership, I think you'll eventually come on board completely. So glad to have you aboard. But thanks to everyone for showing up, and certainly thanks to Mike Olivier and Mike Ray for the presentation. And Monty, if it wasn't for your good offices, we wouldn't be doing this. So thank you very much, and looking forward to chatting with you, all of you, later on.
All right, thank you guys.
Be safe. Get
Thanks,
your
Monty.
shots.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Go Army, beat Navy.
Someone had to drop that.
Definitely didn't. Definitely did not do that.
Does not require.
All right.
Gentlemen, I wasn't even going to say a word until he said that. Come on now.
Okay, that concludes our session, everyone. We're ending the meeting.